When the Galaxy Leader left Egypt for India on November 15th, the crew had no idea they were sailing into trouble. A few days into its journey, the container ship was raided by Houthi militants off the coast of Yemen. The Japanese-operated cargo carrier was the first victim of a campaign targeting suspected Israeli-owned ships or other vessels believed to be headed for Israel. The Galaxy Leader is now docked near the Yemeni port of Hodeidah, where it serves as a war trophy and local attraction.
سنعاود احتجاز السفن الإسرائيلية في البحر الأحمر وفي باب المندب، وكما المجاهدين والسيد يحفظه الله أمس تم ضرب 2 سفن حربية في الباب المندب، وهذا كلها للدفاع عن أهلنا في غزة والأطفال الذين يضربوا ويقتلون الأطفال في المستشفيات والنساء في بيوتهن.
A dozen other ships have since been targeted by Houthi drones and missiles, even as the group sought to allay fears that it was widening its attacks.
إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية تطمئن كافة السفن المتجهة إلى كافة الموانئ حول العالم عدا الموانئ الإسرائيلية بأنه لن يصيبها أي أذى وأن عليها الإبقاء على جهاز التعارف مفتوحا.
Despite assurances from the Houthis, major shipping and oil companies such as Maersk, CMA and BP have decided to stop going through the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest sea lanes. The decision is expected to disrupt global trade as it affects the supply and prices of fuel and other goods.
But bottom line is, these attacks have to stop. They need to stop. They're unacceptable. The United States, our allies and our partners, will do what we have to do to counter these threats and to protect these ships.
The United States announced an international military coalition to protect the Red Sea from further attacks. But how did an obscure group from Yemen manage to pose such a dire threat to the world's supply chains? The Houthis, officially known as Ansar Allah or the Supporters of God in Arabic, are a Shia Muslim mass movement. In 2014, the militant group sought to overthrow the internationally recognized government of Yemen. Analysts say the Houthis are part of an Iranian axis in the Middle East that includes the Palestinian Hamas, Lebanese Hezbollah, the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad, and various militias in Iraq, all of which are hostile to Israel and the US. Today, they're in control of most of northern Yemen, including the capital Sana'a, and claim to be the country's legitimate government. The group has capitalized on the Hamas assault in Israel on October 7, 2023, by staging maritime raids on suspected Israeli-linked ships. The group's base allows it to target ships passing by the narrow sea corridor known as Bab el-Mandeb, a heavily used passage for ships traveling between Asia and Europe.
Yemen is strategically placed right at this choke point, which in some places is as little as 15 kilometers wide, and its maximal point up to 50 kilometers wide. So it's relatively easy because ships have to transit this area, and often there's a number of ships transiting in different directions. So they're very predictable, that they're in quite a small area. So the Houthis are able to see these. I mean, even without sophisticated radar and so on, you can basically see these ships often from the shoreline, and they can target them in various ways. They have some anti-ship missiles. The drones are ones that they can fly, and the drones they can launch from almost anywhere. They have sort of hundreds of kilometers of range.
So how will the Houthi attacks impact global trade? The Red Sea is one of the most important sea routes, accounting for 12% of global trade. Around 22,000 ships, or 30% of all container traffic, passed through the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and the Suez Canal in 2022. Overall, an estimated $1 trillion worth of trade passes through the Red Sea each year. For a ship from China bound for Europe, the only way to circumvent the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb is to go around Africa by the Cape of Good Hope. A typical sea journey from Shanghai to Rotterdam takes around a month. The alternate route will add an extra 10 days to the journey, causing inevitable delays in shipping, as well as higher shipping costs. About 90% of Red Sea-bound traffic has already been suspended or diverted since the attacks began. Experts warn the effects of shipping companies shunning the Red Sea will ultimately trickle down to consumers, many of whom are still hurting from the economic effects of the pandemic.
If it's just short-lived, consumers won't notice anything, maybe except for higher energy prices, but it's going to be temporary. If it lasts longer, we will see that inflation goes up again, not at the same magnitude as we had it in 2021, but clearly then we would then have a completely new narrative and no longer the narrative that inflation is on its way down, but that inflation will rebound in the first month of 2024.
Perishable food products such as cheese, salmon, or wine, and manufactured products from Europe like electronics and automobile parts are likely to see price increases. For most Asian countries dependent on energy imports from the Middle East, the Houthi blockade may hamper post-COVID recovery. Oil prices have already started rising after BP stopped shipments through the Red Sea. Major oil producers, Russia and Saudi Arabia, have also announced they would cut oil exports to push up prices. A 6-day disruption of the Suez Canal caused by the grounding of the Ever Given container ship in March 2021 was estimated to have cost millions of dollars. Experts say that while the Red Sea crisis is bad news for the global economy, it is yet to reach levels seen during the COVID pandemic. But the situation could worsen the longer Houthis, which are currently firmly in control in northern Yemen, continue their attacks. The parade in Sana'a featured Houthi militants claiming they were ready to march through Saudi Arabia to reach Israel. Houthi officials have declared they won't stop targeting ships until Israel stops its military operations. Tehran, which has been supplying weapons to the Houthis for years, has been singled out for being behind the attacks despite denials from Iranian officials.
گروه‌های مقاومت در منطقه نمایندگان کشورها و ملت‌های خود هستند. بر اساس منافع خود و کشورها و ملت‌های خودشون تصمیم میگیرند، بررسی میکنند، به صورت خودجوش و اقدام میکنند. بنابراین این گونه اظهارات در چارچوب فرافکنی است و برای فرار از شرایط بغرنجی است که رژیم صهیونیستی با اون مواجه است.
To counter the threat, countries militarily present in the region have already started taking action to keep the shipping lanes open. Because of its crucial strategic value, the region is already one of the most militarized in the world. In neighboring Djibouti, 7 countries, including China, have established military bases. Navies regularly patrol the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, where various conflicts in the Horn of Africa and Yemen have fostered piracy. The U.S. announced it would form a coalition to secure the passage.
So this morning, we've launched Operation Prosperity Guardian under the umbrella of Combined Maritime Forces and under the leadership of Task Force 153. That operation is bringing together more than a dozen countries from around the world to conduct joint patrols in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden.
So we face a protracted standoff. So the question then, I think, is would the coalition actually try and prevent the Houthis from firing these weapons to try and hit them on the ground before they were launched? That would be a very difficult task because it'd be difficult to find them. They're quite dispersed. No one would want to put boots on the ground, so you wouldn't want to have forces actually going into Yemen. So we're left in this rather defensive position at the moment in which the United States coalition will try and shoot down these drones, but that could drag on for quite a long time.
في السبعين